Stephen here. Happy Saturday evening. Still too much glare. Smoking my new clay pipe, my 60-year-old clay pipe. I've been smoking the death out of this now. I've only had one more instant with the bowl dropping off. Unfortunately, it was full of burning tobacco at the time. And in it, smoking some Robert McConnell Original Oriental, as recommended by Token Tommy. This is lovely stuff. I really, really like it. Black Cavendish, Turkish Orientals, Virginia, Perique, and Latakia in the background, which suits me. Love the stuff. Can't recommend it highly enough. And look, UK government, I've taken all the health warnings off. What are you going to do? Come and get me. Oh, he's a rebel. Excuse me once again. This is a lovely little smoker, and it is little. I mean, it's little more than those were on the length, and with being curved as well. But it's great. The bowl, like all clay pipes, the bowl gets very, very hot. And one thing I have learned is not to handle it after I've been handling coal for the fire. I want it to colour, but I don't want it to go black. I don't know, I think clay pipes will eventually colour like meerschaums, but perhaps not quite as quickly or quite as much. Remains to be seen. I've only got one other clay, and that's a Long Church Warden that you've probably seen me smoke in previous videos. And that hasn't really coloured at all yet. But then I don't smoke it that often because, not that I don't like it, but basically out of fear of breaking the thing, because it's so long. That stem could be snapped like anything. And as I said to Brad, Pipes and Kayaks a few days back, I've got a long history of breaking things. Whether it's possessions or bones, I've been there and done it. But this is, I'm so pleased with this little pipe. And the stem does seem to be tightening up now. Although Tommy also recommended applying a bit of clear nail polish to the end that goes inside the shank, which of course makes sense because it's basically acrylic, isn't it? But I've yet to do it, but I will get round to it just to make sure. And I'm drinking, by the way, do excuse me for wearing mon chapeau indoors once again. It's not that it's cold, it's turned pretty mild here, but my nail clippers have gone west. They packed up a couple of weeks back. Because yes, I cut my own hair. You think I'd pay someone to make me look the way I do? No. But they packed up, so I've got another set on order, just waiting for them to arrive. And under here, my hair must be about sort of a centimetre long by now. What with the big bald patch at the back and the receding whole forehead at the front, and then the fairly longish wispy grey hair, makes me look like an old wino. Now then, I may be an old wino, but I don't want to look like one. So yeah, where are we? Well, that's pipe, tobacco, hat explained. Beer. Shepherd Neame, 1698. Britain's oldest brewery. There's been a brewery on the site since 1698, as you might have gathered, and it's been family owned for, well, 150 years or so, I think. Can't remember exactly. Maybe longer than that. And this was produced to celebrate their tricentenary in 1998. It's been brewed ever since. It's thrice hopped and it's bottled condition, so it keeps on fermenting in the bottle. It's quite strong, it's 6.5%, but it's a lovely drop of beer. Cheers. Happy Saturday. The music, of course, is, I think, one of the greatest albums ever made in any genre, and one of my all-time favourites is Joni Mitchell, Blue, and this is my favourite track. I love this album. I've got two favourite tracks, this one and The Last Time I Saw Richard, which is the closing track. Released in 1971, and for me, this album, what this personally means to me, it's the first indicator, and others will think the same of different albums, but this is a personal view for me. This was when the 60s dream started to turn sour, when the summer of love was well and truly over. I mean, it had started back in '69 with the shooting at Altamont and stuff like that. But like the last few years of the 60s have been all peace and love, and then once the 70s started going, it all started turning a lot darker, a lot more cynical. And this album is like raw emotion. She put everything into this album. I think Chris Christopherson at the time, he heard it and he said to her, "You've got to keep something for yourself," because she put everything on here. And I mean, what, the album's now 46 years old, and I can just listen to it over and over again. Another album from the 70s that I think it came out a couple of years later, but meant the same for me, in that it was the change from the 60s to the 70s, was my favourite Neil Young album, and that's On the Beach. Excuse me. That's an incredible album. Now, some might say Tonight's the Night, the album that followed it, is much darker, but even so, On the Beach is pretty out there as well. You listen to Revolution Blues. David Crosby, because of course he was still in Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young at the time. Neil Young was. David Crosby played rhythm guitar on Revolution Blues, and when he heard the lyrics he said, "It's too dark, man." Because I think Crosby was still living the summer of love. He was probably so out of it, he didn't know what year it was. But yeah, it was a real change to the darkness and cynicism of the 70s. But, you know, that's the way things progress. Nothing stays the same forever. Oh, this is lovely tobacco. And the funny thing is, I mean, this obviously isn't a filtered pipe, so I'm taking a bit of a chance. But the clay obviously dries the smoke out so much that it, because I mean the bowl gets really hot, it dries it out so much that I think it has pretty much a similar effect to a filter. Mind that. I'm going to put another piece of my dwindling supply. I've only got a couple of bits left. Foraging again. Well, it's been very windy here the past couple of days, so with only like a couple of branches come down. As long as they don't come down on my roof, I don't care. Cheers. Hope you all had an excellent Christmas. Mine was what we'd say in here in the UK is a game of two halves. The run up to it was nothing much because I didn't see anyone. Christmas Eve, I was wrapping the presents I bought for my daughters. And I chucked all the boxes and stuff that things had come into one side. And after I finished wrapping, I stood up and went to walk out to the kitchen, and I tripped over a box on the floor. And you know that moment, because it flashes through so quick, that moment when you trip and you're falling and you know you're going to go down hard. Somehow, I mean, I say it goes so quick, you know you've got no defence, you are going to go down hard, and I did. I've got a coffee table at the end of the sofa there, and I managed to hit that on the way down, but fortunately my head missed by a couple of inches the radiator on the far wall. Otherwise it could have been an even funnier Christmas. But it hurt. You know, when you're 62, I mean, I don't consider myself to be a really old man, but things are already starting to not work as well as they used to, particularly my knees. And I think my knees were the first, because I've got no carpet on the floor. I've got a rug, but under that is just varnished, sanded and varnished floorboards. Oh. So I was a bit tender for the rest of that evening. Then Christmas Day was fairly like just a normal day. Took Zig out, had a bit of lunch, one thing and another. And then in the evening I went and picked my girls up and brought them back here. And they stayed the night, and they stayed the rest of the day, the next day, Boxing Day. And then the morning of the 27th I had to take them back to their mothers because they were all going up to their grandmothers up in the Midlands. And it's, you know, it's funny how things you sort of build up in anticipation of stuff, and then it goes really quickly. In a flash, it's just gone before you know it. And then when I went and dropped them off because I loved having them here. That's my other favourite track. I dropped them off at their mother's on the 27th and waved goodbye and drove off, and I just crashed and burned basically. Hit a really deep, dark depression. Fellow sufferers will know what it's like, and I know there's plenty of fellow sufferers amongst the YTPC. It's like you fall into the deepest, darkest black hole and you can't see any way out of it. So the following 24 hours after that were pretty rough. But hey ho, you get over it. It's the thing with depression, isn't it? It's peaks and troughs, up and down. But here we are, a new year ahead of us. You've got to stay positive and onwards and upwards. Haven't we, boy? You're going to be 6 next year. He's getting on. But being a Jack Russell, they go on forever. 20 years is not unheard of. So he's probably going to outlive me. But he'll be well looked after. My daughters will take him in. Anyway, this has taken a bit of a sour turn, so I'm going to knock it on the head. I'm going to go away and finish my little clay pipe. Have a couple more beers, although not of this strength. And perhaps listen to something a bit more cheerful that doesn't wake up so many memories. I'm aiming to put another one up tomorrow evening to wish you all a happy new year. But yeah, I'm going to try and do that. And goodness me, I've just realised this is nearly 20 minutes, so I'm definitely calling a halt. Happy Saturday evening, everyone. Hope you had a great Christmas. Look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. If I don't, whatever, have a great 2018 and Happy New Year celebrations. And yeah, I'll see you whenever. Ta-ra all, take care.